Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Unfiltered Nonprofit, where we are trying to create a platform for nonprofit leaders to mastermind with each other on their own time, at their own leisure. Today, I have a very special guest here with us. Welcome, Tara Shannon, from the Executive Director of the Ottawa Festival Network. Ottawa Festival Network represents over 100 plus festivals in Ottawa across arts, music, and culture. And it is a lot of members that you have. And it is also a very interesting type of network because you have a lot of volunteers work. So welcome, Tara.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about your career.
My career has had a very varied and diverse background.
Yeah.
So primarily, I've been a business owner. So my first little business that I started was a music school back when I was a teenager, and kept that up for quite a few years. And then I went into my husband at the time was a mechanic, and we went into his industry and started a business together, which we grew, and that was in transportation and manufacturing and leasing. And so I did that while raising my kids. And then but the whole time I was doing that, building those businesses, I was also working in the music industry. So as an artist and a songwriter, and working with charities and nonprofit organizations to help use music as a fundraising model. So recorded music and putting together album projects. This was back when people actually bought albums and paid for recorded music. And so I would help with fundraising efforts, and we did a lot of events around fundraising efforts for community groups. And then in 2014, I started my record label, Willow Sound Records. And so I work I work with artists and music creators to help them create a sustainable life, and understanding how to build a life with music in it in a way that is sustainable. And so I've been doing that for 10 years. And I wrote a book called You in the Music Business, which is a self-care guide to finding joy in today's music industry. And I still have a coaching practice, and I'm the executive director of the Festival Network now, and I'm still active as an artist and a songwriter. So that's pretty much the picture of my world and how I got here from a business career standpoint. So I have a lot of experience in private business and experience in not-for-profit charities as well.
Oh my God, this is like your. How old are your kids?
I have 7. So I have 5 boys and 2 girls. And my oldest is now 32, if you could believe it. And my youngest just turned 19.
Oh my God, you have 7 kids.
I do. And I survived. I'm on the other side. They're all successful, independent adults living on their own now. So now it's just me and my dog. It's great.
So you got lots of time to focus on so much that's still on your plate, coaching, and you still have your own business. And then now you're the ED for Ottawa Festival Network. And there's so much and you're still a songwriter in the music industry on your own. So there's so much that's going on in your life. Now, how did you decide to join Ottawa Festival Network? What drive you to Ottawa Festival Network to begin with?
That's a great question. And actually, the reason was at the time, for the last 10 years, I've been working with, I helped sort of establish and found and then grow over the last 10 years the Ottawa Music Industry Coalition, which essentially is the music office for Ottawa, arm's length. And that, like music being my number one passion. And, I would even go so far as to say it's a core value for me, the importance of music and how powerful music is for us, just humanity in general. My heart was really in that. And I was on the board for a long time, and they have a maximum amount of years that you can be on the board. So they're like, you need to leave now. Like, no, I don't want to leave. And so, because there's a lot of exciting things happening in Ottawa right now around arts, culture, and entertainment. And it's just really fun to be a part of that, and sort of cathedral thinking, if you know that term, which is just thinking of projects that will extend and exist beyond your own generation, and so I really wanted to stay in the conversations happening. So I happened to see the posting for the job, and I have other than when I worked at Dairy Queen when I was a teenager, I haven't been an employee. I've only ever worked for myself. So the process of interviewing and putting together a resume and everything was a bit daunting, because I was like, whoa, this, like, I built an HR department for 120 employees. That's how big our company became. But I never like sat through an interview. So I was a little nervous to be on the other side of the table and stuff. But I went through it, and I thought, what a great, this organization had been without leadership for about 3-4 years. And so they were looking for somebody to come in and sort of reimagine and sort of reorganize the operations to see what is the potential for the festival network. We're celebrating 30 years. What does the next 30 years look like? And so I had the skill set to lend to that. And it kept me in the conversation with the city around the arts and culture and entertainment projects that are happening. And luckily they took a chance on me and hired me. So I've been very happy there and loving the work that we're doing.
So you are like in this role right now, and you are advocating for the whole sector, and it's fantastic. And you've got the, like you mentioned earlier, you've got this experience, diverse background, like being an artist is being an entrepreneur. And then you also grow your own business, had run, and still runs your coaching business. So how is it compared to running a nonprofit organization? Do you see any similarities between the two?
I do. I see the similarities, and there's obvious differences, because the main driver in a for-profit business is the profitability, right? It's how do you build your retained earnings, and you talk about things like market share and, diversifying your income streams and stuff like that. But in not-for-profit environments, you still have to have sustainability focus and conversations, because every entity needs money flowing through in order for it to be sustainable. But your end goal isn't the profitability. It isn't shareholders. It isn't, market sharing like that. You're really using the funds that you do have access to fulfill a very specific mission and purpose, and being of service in a very particular way. And even though entrepreneurs who are successful, in my view, really need to feel passion for what they're doing, what they're selling, product, service, whatever it may be. You have to really love what you're doing to be successful. And that is the same, I feel, in not-for-profit. Passion is I would go so far as to say that not-for-profit industry relies on passion as currency, because often people take these jobs, they're paid a lot less than what they could earn in the private sector. And so it relies on that love and that passion for whatever the mission is as a form of currency to keep things moving along, to attract and get talent that are willing to work in those spaces for less income, for less earnings. So those are some of the similarities and passion. What I have discovered in not-for-profit is you really have the scrappier entrepreneurs. You have like the real bootstrappers, because often there just isn't enough money to go around and there's so much need in the world. So you get it forces you to be super creative and to think outside the box, because, accessing cash, the ways that you access cash in not-for-profits versus for-profits is very different. And so it really forces you to dig deep. Which I love the challenge of.
So do you have any specific experience share with digging deep and like being creative in terms of generating revenue? You are a creative person to begin with like your background in like even Dairy Queen, or even having your own business when you were so young, and helping your husband at the time co-founding a business. So how did you leverage that and be creative in this particular environment within Ottawa Festival Network, or any of your previous nonprofit experience?
Yeah, I think, honestly, probably my life as an artist and coaching artists really challenges this the most, because you have to working with artists to figure out what is the natural rhythm of their life, and what do they want their life to look like, having music in it, and what are their challenges as far as keeping a roof over their head and being able to feed themselves, and what is kind of like holistic budgeting in a way. So to figure out what is a healthy amount of money to spend on music and stuff like that. So getting really creative with artists on ways to build audiences, because building a buying audience is a huge challenge in a real oversaturated space right now. That's what streaming has really done in music. And so, so coming up with really creative ways to leverage real world audiences to drive digital audiences, because we live in both worlds now in the artist space. So we're driving a digital audience. We're also driving a real world audience, and coming up with strategies that sort of cross pollinate those two audiences. So that's somewhere where I really feel like we're really digging deep, getting super creative, finding every opportunity that you're in front of humans to try to get an email address to bring them along with you for the rest of the journey. And then in the festival network job, I find that the network itself, we have a pretty set budget. We're funded by 2 levels of government. We can run pretty smoothly as far as sustainability for the small team that we have. But where this creative thinking comes in is working with our festivals, because our festivals are challenged financially, again, in a world where operational costs are through the roof. Funding is not matching that. So these are really real world challenges that they are facing. And so creative strategies, again, attracting their audiences, pooling resources to keep costs down, pooling resources to do group marketing, really exploring using the numbers of festivals that we have in Ottawa, working together to help all of them remain sustainable. So that kind of thinking really comes into play when we're working directly with our festivals.
Yeah, so as an entrepreneur myself, and I also leverage, and I also try to be not necessarily an expert per se. I'm expert in my own professional arena, similar to and others. They are expert at performing the arts. I am expert in like crunching numbers.
Yeah.
Not so proud at times, but this is what I'm good at. Like I'm good at talking in front of the crowd to talk about taxes or financial planning, or even financial management for all nonprofit organizations. So to me, I resonate a lot with what you said. Like, yeah, collecting those email addresses when I'm seeing every single person, every single opportunity out there, I collect their email addresses, and that resonate a lot with like a real event, like real business out there. Like you need to have your own list. That's your asset. Facebook's great, Instagram's great, YouTube's great, but then they could take away your account anytime they want, right? Like, and if you are on TikTok, who knows when that Chinese government is going to take away that account, right? So
or the Americans, if the Americans.
Yeah, or the American. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so then you don't know what you don't know, and you can't control it, and ultimately that email addresses is where it all falls under. And I find that
not enough people know what you're talking about, Cher. They don't know that. They don't really stop to think. They think social media is so great. Well, social media is a tool, but you don't own anything, and you can't control anything. And the algorithm determines what percentage of your followers to send your content to. So it's not something you can build a business on. You can use it as a flow through. Like the way I treat it with my clients, like my business coaching clients, my artist clients, is think of it like a storefront. But you want people to come through the door into your store, and that's where the email address exchange. It's like, because once you have an email address, you are then in a direct conversation with your client or fan, and you're only at the mercy of spam filters and whitelisting and stuff. But you're at least it's your own voice, and you're able to have a linear conversation, whereas social media doesn't do that. So it's a good tool, but it's a flow through. It's almost like that's where we go fishing for our fans, but then we want to put them in our boat.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. So that's awesome. That's a great analogy. And more often than not, like I don't see nonprofit organizations, or particularly the membership organization who wants to sell products, are leveraging email communication that well, to be honest. Like there is no consistency. They wanted to send them, or fundraising, to be honest, because we also work with a lot of charities, and they have a cause, but then they're not delivering, they're not communicating enough with the fear that, if I send them email once a week, then they are going to unsubscribe from my list. What's your take on it?
I think it depends on what your email is about and what the point is. I think we have to always come back to, we're building relationships. And so if like there's the way in the terms that we use are basically the 4 fundamental steps of the psychology behind relationships and how we interact as humans. So we put together our strategies based on that, meaning introduction. So hi, nice to meet you, whatever setting we're in. And then we move naturally into education. That's where we learn things about each other. So we're like, oh, hi, I'm the executive director for Festival Network. Oh, you have a podcast. And we exchange information. And then our brain is constantly figuring out whether that human is worth burning calories on, whether we're going to continue. So at introduction education, then there's a permission. So permission in our society looks like exchanging business cards in a business setting, or in a dating kind of setting would be like giving your number or making plans. So permission to carry on the relationship beyond that point. And then then you fall into nurturing, and we nurture our relationships based on the type of relationship it is. So when you apply these same psychological steps to how we're sending emails out to people, and always coming back to what is the relationship we're nurturing, and always be mindful that we need to give more than take. And that's the same concept in social media. Like, we follow the 80-20 rule. 8 out of 10 posts is just giving. It's connecting, it's sharing, and only 2 out of 10 is an ask. Because if your emails feel like you're asking, yeah, people tune out. They're tired. They're burnt out. Everybody's working 2-3 jobs trying to keep their kids in sports or whatever, So if you're always asking, it's like the neighbor that comes over only when they need to borrow your lawnmower or a cup of sugar, but you never see them otherwise. So when you frame it like you're nurturing a relationship, people are less tired of getting those emails, and you have a higher chance of engagement, and your click rate goes up, your open rate goes up. You're not just spamming people with, we need this from you, or give us money, or come to our event. You have to balance the give and take.
That's amazing. That's exactly the way that I follow. Like, I think it reminded me of the book called by Gary Vaynerchuk, who's the guru out there that talks about marketing all the time. And his book's title is Jab, 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 Right Hook, I think. So you provide value, then you ask, and you provide, and then ask. So I think that's something that people out of all the nonprofit that I work with, they're reluctant to do more personality stuff. So that give is not just about giving content, it's also showing who you are as well.
And it's the personality of the organization that you're representing. So if the organization, like having alignment inside the organization, having a lot of clarity on why do we exist? What problem are we here to solve? What do we have to offer? What are our services, and what problem are we solving in the world? And making sure that the board and all of the staff and everybody's crystal clear on what the feeling of that is. Because at the end of the day, through all these terminologies we use, whether it's the marketing guru or the music industry language, it all comes down to the same thing. It's human connection and emotion. So it's how we feel around people in our life and who we show up as in every situation. So if you're able to harness the personality of your organization, and you're able to communicate that, and it evokes an emotion with people, you will have a strong bond and connection to the audience that is tied to whatever problem you're solving. And then, so the clarity, alignment, clarity, and then connection, and then just nurturing that connection. So it's not mysterious in the sense that we have the science, we know what works to motivate people to give funds or to engage. The consistency is the biggest challenge, because not-for-profits have such a high turnover rate of staff and board members. So it's like you can't get alignment and momentum long enough in one straight direction to often have, enough sustained success. It's nice when you do see an organization like OFN that's coming into their 30th year. I mean, that's pretty remarkable, for what they've done. So I think for me, that's how I approach it. That's how I approach the connection to whatever audience it is, whether it's for artists, whether it's my own fan base, or whether it's the people engaging with OFN.
So it's consistency, building trust, building relationship. I think those are big terms that they are actually simple terms, but people undermine or underestimate the power of these things, showing some personality, building that relationship, and showing up consistently. And it's hard because they not hiding. They always think that, well, I have an organization client who's more formal. I'm not going to name names. They appear to be more formal. They're professional. So they always have to appear to be professional in a sense that, well, sometimes you may not be able to connect, and that's challenging. Now, switching gear, I know Ottawa Festival Network, also all your members leverage a lot on volunteers. And how do you guys recruit these volunteers, and how do you even manage these volunteers? How do you even plan for the no-show? How do you hold the volunteers accountable? I think this is something that's very, very valuable to share with our audience.
Volunteers are by far the lifeblood of the festival sector, for sure. The festival sector, simply would not exist without volunteers, because the financial structure, the economics of it doesn't allow for enough money to hire all of those people to do what they do. So it's a really important type of relationship that our festivals have to manage. And what I can speak on their behalf, we don't directly hire volunteers ourselves with OFN, but in communication with our festivals, seeing how they do it. So it's one of two things that I've seen consistently. And one is the volunteer has an emotional connection and feels something for the event itself. So they either have been doing it, they've been going, it's a generational thing in their family, or it's a cause they really believe in, or it's arts and it's just part of who they are. So they're drawn to give because it gives them something. It feeds their soul in some way. And the other thing I've seen is festivals that are really successful at getting volunteers, maintaining them, is they give a really great exchange and trade value. So they give the volunteer tickets to the events, or access to certain shows, or they feed them. They get bonuses and stuff. So they really take care of those relationships with volunteers, and that keeps those volunteers coming back year over year over year.
That's awesome. And it also goes back to the fundamental that we talked about, building those relationships, keeping them in the loop, and appreciating them when the opportunities come. Now, last question. We've taken up a lot of time, so I'm going to ask the last question. And I felt like I always ask this question because it's always on my mind, that because funding is tough, and it's just going to be tougher as our government decide to essentially put a hold on a lot of funding projects. So when in this time and day, with economic uncertainty as well as funding cut that's coming, that never seems to end because the headline every other day is funding cut. So what are the creative revenue approach that you have been working on or have been helping your members work on?
A great question. And you're absolutely right. I think we can't, even if we understand from a government standpoint why our government has to shift focus because of what's happening globally, we're witnessing a global power shift. And so I think most of us can get behind the concept that we need to divert dollars in a different way now, whether that be defense or technology or whatever. But at the same time, I don't think we should take the pressure off of continued funding and increased funding on arts and culture, because if a people cannot get together in community to celebrate, what are we defending? So to me, they go hand in hand. It's not one or the other. Now that's my opinion. I'm not running the Treasury Board or hanging out with Prime Minister Carney, but if I could. So to me, I think it's a three-prong approach. I think we need to keep the pressure up on government to be like, this is super important, because festivals particularly act like connective tissue in a society.
Yeah.
And it actually helps to lower the stress in times of uncertainty, to give people the time to celebrate together. So they are super important socially, economically, mentally, emotionally, all of it. That being said, the realities of there being only so much money. One way that we're helping to facilitate more funding is increasing education and helping to facilitate relationships with private sector. So through sponsorships. So the sponsor model, I'm sure you've seen this too in not-for-profit, it's kind of shifting away from gold, silver, platinum, here's your list and give us your money and here's your experience. What we're seeing more is sponsors want an interactive experience, brand activation experience, stuff that generates great social media content, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we're developing what we're informally calling Tinder for festivals. That will not be the actual name when we release it.
Oh, I love your marketing mind. That's perfect. I think people just know exactly what you're talking about.
It helps them understand. Yeah. So it's a sponsor matchup platform using AI and technology. So we can upload our festivals with their value system, like their brand propositions, their stats, like their demographic, all the important stuff. And we can do the same with the businesses through Acobia, which is that's the organization for all the BIAs. And we can facilitate conversation and matchmaking, because one thing festivals don't have time for is you're going to research all the medium to small businesses in Ottawa that might be great brand partners for them, but nobody has the time to be going out there knocking on doors or researching or trying to figure it out. So OFN is developing that a space where we can provide that role, so we can cut through the time, create a time saver for them and narrow the list, and then create opportunity for them to meet each other and then talk and see if there's a brand alignment and an opportunity there. So that's one example of a program that we're developing right now that we're hoping to launch in 2026. We will hopefully have a demo of it at our festival summit on November 19th. And so that's an example. And then also we offer, we just did a workshop on financial literacy. So we had a money mindset coach, Jenny Mitchell, come in, and Mark Monahan, the founder of Bluesfest, came in to talk about their financial strategies on getting Bluesfest to become what we know it as today. So education and getting the festivals to talk to each other and share information is really helpful to them, and then hopefully increasing the access to and partnership development opportunity with the private sector in Ottawa. Because if the money is going to defense, the government money is going to defense and tech, well, Ottawa is like the leading tech city in Canada. So great, let's form some relationships with the tech companies and keep that connection strong about how important festivals are for our city and for community in general.
That's fantastic. Like, that is a great way to generate new revenue, as well as to help your members generate new revenue. And yeah, that is achieving, like, to me, that's like above and beyond in terms of achieving the purpose of Ottawa Festival Network. It's fantastic. Such a great platform and great idea. And those mastermind people, I keep going back to the organization that I have as a client, and they undervalue like how important it is just to create a platform for people to mastermind and share ideas with each other. So that's also that's a great idea. I think it is also very important, the peer-to-peer experience share and learning from each other. So good for you, Tara. That's some amazing initiative that you're doing there.
Thanks so much. I think we can't be afraid of technology, and AI, like everything, has positive and negatives. In the music industry, we don't even speak the word AI because of the creative infringement there. But in OFN work, because we're under-resourced as far as people, if we can harness these technologies to help deliver a service that solves a problem, to me, that's a win-win all day.
Absolutely. Well, Tara, I've taken up so much of your time, so thank you so much again. I just wanted to thank you for sharing your entrepreneur mindset, the lesson that you've shared, particularly in marketing and the consistency and about building relationship. Those are amazing, amazing lessons that everyone, I think all organizations out there should have their own email list, should be communicating consistently, providing useful content to their audience and building that relationship. People it's a very underutilized way of communicating for sure.
I agree. We live in a data world. Everything is data now. And your network is your net worth for sure.
I know. And it's particularly underutilized by the nonprofit. Even for like small business owners out there, they could use it a lot better, but they're not. But then particularly in the nonprofit, we are so confined, like, with the old way. I need to have an event, and that's the only time I would send out the email to ask. But then that's the only time I hear from you, and that's the only thing that you're asking me to do. That's probably not the best way to do things. So
Exactly. Well, it was great chatting with you. Thank you so much for having me.
thank you. As we wrap up, I want to share a bit more about what we do at Otis Financial Solutions. For the past 18 years, Otis Financial Solutions has been dedicated to enhancing the financial management and strategic planning capabilities of hundreds of associations and nonprofits across Canada. Our extensive experience has enabled us to deliver tailored financial solutions that drive growth and enhance sustainability for nonprofits and associations. If you are interested in learning more about how Otis Financial Solutions can support your organization, I would love to offer you a no obligation 20-minute call. Let's discuss your unique challenges and explore how we would be able to help you achieve your goals.